Please
Come on,
welcome
go
to the
crazy!
stage, Trainee Campbell.
We're so in sync! We're so in sync! Welcome, welcome!
Thank you so much. This is nice, isn't
You
it?
get a whole couch to yourself.
Oh, lovely.
So look at that, just put your little hat over your eyes there and have a snooze, it'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys just talk amongst yourselves, I'll be fine. Yeah.
This is a good look.
Thank you.
I don't have a head for hats, so whenever I see someone rocking a hat, I'm like, well done.
Yeah, I'm slowly but surely increasing my collection as the days pass. This is my new favourite. I like it very much.
Have you got like just loads of those mannequin heads that people have for hats?
No, they're just me. It's just me from various different projects. You know?
Yeah.
Different casts. Yeah.
Can I keep that prosthetic for my hat?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's a good. Do you know what? It's a great way to do it, I think.
It's terrifying. I've been asked before if I wanted to keep any of them, and I'm always like, well, what would I do with them? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think
Halloween decorations.
Yeah, that's true, but I'd also like forget about them, and then I'd like open the door and be like, fucking hell, what are you doing there? Jesus.
You say that, Beck has a prosthetic of her head from a show, and every time I go to her house, I do exactly that. It's kind of creepy.
So what was the show?
A live Fringe show, Edinburgh Fringe show.
That's sick.
That's
great. Good for you.
Thank you.
How are you finding this wave of Stranger Things annex?
It's amazing. I mean, you know, I'm 34 years old. I've been making films and television for a while now, and I'm always fascinated when I'm able to be a part of something that, you know, I always think it's nothing to do with me, do you know what I mean? It's always to do with the writing and what the show means to everyone else, and it's so beautiful to be a part of something again, which is means so much to so many people. It's incredible, you know. It's a total blessing. I feel very grateful and lucky.
But I mean, well earned. But you're part of some incredible franchises as well. Like, obviously, Stranger Things is bringing a whole new load of people to you. But what, you've got Harry Potter under your belt? Yeah.
And Fantastic Beasts as well.
Fantastic Beasts, Twilight, and my favourite, Thomas the Tank Engine.
You're the first person to bring that up this weekend. Thank you so much.
Don't think I'm not a fan of that little boat that you play.
Mr. Skiff?
Yeah. I think they captured you perfectly. That's a hat stand.
Me too. You know what, it's funny, I did that because my cousin at the time was a huge fan of that show, and you know, she must have been about 3, I think, when I got asked if I would do it. And you try explaining to a 3-year-old that one of her relatives plays a character in her favourite show. It was like, it just didn't compute in her brain. And now she's older, she starts to get it a bit more. But that's why I did it. I just thought, you know what, this is really fun and really sweet, so why not?
Yeah, it's great,
cool.
man.
It's cute.
An absolute British institution as well.
Well, 100%, because you know, they wanted to bring in somebody who did like music, you know, like they did back in the day with Ringo Starr, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so they were like, well, you know, you play music and you're cheap, why not you? It's like, fuck yeah, why not?
Ringo Starr, famously cheap.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
If you were...
Absolute slots, that's me.
If you could be in any animated show of your choice, will do a voice? Is there any?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of shows like Bob's Burgers
Yeah.
and
You two are about to have a
American Dad. But
conversation.
I think the thing is that like, when you know you've kind of culturally had an impact is when you end up on a show like The Simpsons. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe if I ever ended up on The Simpsons, I'd sort of just call it a day and just,
Dig it
you know.
down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no point
Just
in doing
walk into
anything
the
else.
sea afterwards.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Bye.
I mean, that would be incredible. And it's the weird thing is, because The Simpsons, obviously, they created reference culture for our generation, essentially. It wouldn't be surprising to just see, like, and now we're going to have Vecna in The Simpsons. That would be incredible.
It would be better than appearing on something like South Park. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You turn up in South Park, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, whether they ask you or whether they just do an impression of you. That's
Either
how you
or is
know.
terrible for me. Either or. I don't want to keep talking about this because I feel like I'm putting it out to the universe, scaring me.
Yeah.
Take it back, take it back.
We'll shut that down right now. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible, like, because you work solidly. Like, absolutely solidly, but I think like there's something different about Stranger Things fans to everything else, because they're like, a lot of the fan bases obviously have grown with you, like the Harry Potter ones, they're all, you know, different generations of, but Stranger Things is such a new fan base. Like, it's crazy to think the impact's had now, but in 20 years, like, it's going to be exactly the same, like, people just coming out and loving you. Does it feel weird knowing that you are immortalised in this way?
I don't really think about it very much. I mean, I do recognise the fact that, like, culturally, because its reference is so broad, you know, it's like any of that sort of great art over time, the impact is much larger than something that is a bit of a flash in the pan. You know, ask me in 20 years how I'm feeling, and if it's still around, I'll let you know. But right now, I'm just kind of living very much like day to day and just sort of taking it in. And it's just, you know, it's like I joined in season 4, you know, the show's been going for 6 years already. And to step into that is something that just meant a lot to me at that time.
Yeah.
It still means a lot to me now.
But also, you're now, like, as far as villains go, you're up there with, like, you're going to be up there with Darth Vader and Sauron and people like that. It's such an iconic thing already. Like, we'll see. You know, I know where it came from. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know where Vecna came from. I know how much that means to Matt and Ross, and I know the references that they pulled, and that for me was one of the biggest draws to be able to be doing the show. It was like, okay, this is like all my favourite characters from over the time, and you know, I was able to take my favourite dark characters and put them into it, you know, and I'm really grateful that, you know, it seems to have had an impact. You know, but again, it's down to the writing, you know. I turn up, I do what I do, I try and do it to the best of my ability, and I try and give as much of myself as I can do. But you know, Matt and Ross are really smart people. They're not just sort of winging it. They know exactly what they're up to all the time. Yeah. Did they give you much in terms of, like, because obviously there's Vecna, the character now in Stranger Things, but did they give you anything from the Dungeons and Dragons side? Because Vecna's a huge, because I played D&D, and I had the Eye of Vecna for a while in my game. But yeah, it's really like, he's a big character in D&D lore as well, obviously.
So, you know, obviously knowing the show, I know how important D&D is in the lore of the show itself. When I was asked to audition for the character, and when I went to go and meet with Matt and Ross, it wasn't something that they brought up at all. When I was offered the part, obviously I kind of sort of like dove into it, found out more about it, because it was very helpful to kind of know a little bit more prior to getting all the scripts through, as to like, maybe where this guy's coming from. But the weird thing is the week that I got the job, I left my apartment and I was walking down the street, and there was a guy, and this is the only time I've ever seen this, there was a guy wearing the Eye of Vecna t-shirt.
Oh really?
D&D, yeah. And I was like, whoa, that's mad. Like, that, and weird things like that would happen whilst I was making the show. So, you know, I know of him, and I know of the lore of him in D&D, but it wasn't something that we even really discussed at the time.
I didn't know if they threw to that, or if it was just as a thing.
I think one of the things that they do is they kind of let the actors, and they hire people who are naturally inquisitive enough to go out there and find out the information that they put in there themselves. And that's half of our job, right? It's like, know exactly what it is that you're stepping into. And the way I see it is, half of my job is to try and get into the mindset of the writer or of the director, of the creatives in general. And in that, you know, you dig around, you find things, you put things on walls, you put things as the background of your phone, you do whatever, you know, it's great.
I'm going to ask a very weird technical question, but obviously you shoot a lot of scenes with a very, very young Eleven, but I mean, she's not that small. So is it filmed with a stunt double, and then computery magically done, or were there scenes with her directly? At what point does it cross over?
That's really cool. It's funny you mention that, because I was actually thinking about Marty Blair last night. So Marty Blair is the young version of Eleven, basically, and what we've ended up doing, what they ended up doing, I didn't do any of it, was they ended up face replacing Marty with Millie. And I don't know how many of you are aware of Marty Blair and what she did in this last season, but she's a phenomenal young actor and very, very talented and incredibly sweet and very kind and very giving. And you know, she's just wonderful. She's one of those people who's now kind of, she's just doing her thing and plodding along, and I feel like it's important for everyone to know who that is, you know. So if you want to go out there and have a look, Marty Blair is the person for you to go and have a look at. And so sometimes I'd be working with Marty, and sometimes I'd be working with Millie. One of the coolest things I've ever seen happen on a film set was, I was so in the lab, right, on that set. It's, you know, it's a whole set, so there are lots of rooms. Every number has a room, and for our, you know, sort of holding area, we're all put into separate rooms. And I was sat in like number 17, and I'm working with, you know, with Amy doing some makeup stuff, and I've got an iPad there, and I'm watching this scene take place, and it's Marty, and it's right at the end of episode 7 where Brenna comes in, and 11 has sent Henry, you know, sort of into the void, as it were, and he says, "What have you done?" And 11 has to turn around, and that's Marty doing it. And I'm watching this, and it's Marty, and you know, she's doing amazing, she's just wonderful. But the boys sort of wanted something else, and all of a sudden I heard Millie's voice, and Millie's 16 at this point, right? And she comes in, she like puts her arm around Marty, and she tells Marty what to do and how to like really nail it. And the next take, Marty just like totally smashes it. And the electricity was just like so vibrant. And for me to watch a 16-year-old, you know, I'm not trying to be condescending, but child direct another child in such a way that was so human, was like, it was just fucking incredible. It was so cool. So they worked really closely together, Millie and Marty, in order to be able to create all the mannerisms of 11 and all of that kind of stuff. So shout out to Marty Blair, shout out to Millie, obviously, incredible. Yeah, but that's how they did it. Yeah, so I'm looking at a child when I'm doing a lot of like dark stuff, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, it was worrying at times, I'll be honest with you. It was kind of worrying, but it was very cool.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's the exact sort of answer I wanted.
Yeah, it was the right question to ask as well, by the way, yeah.
We are aware there's a lot of you, so we are going to open the floor for questions. If you've got a question, please get your hands up. We have the microphone coming
Thomas
through
with the microphone.
right now. Just, yep, absolutely great. Oh, can we get the yellow mic up, please?
How do you find yourself about as Grindelwald?
How do I feel?
Yes.
Oh, I feel very lucky. You know, it's very short, my participation in Harry Potter, in the Harry Potter universe. And when I was asked if I wanted to come in and jump out of a window and being in a moving picture, I was, of course, honoured and incredibly happy. But yeah, no, it's very cool. And when they asked me to come back and do that short little thing in Fantastic Beasts, I was, you know, stoked. It was really, really cool. And I love that whole world, and like, you know, David Heyman, who produces it, and David Yates and all of that team. They're just so creative and so cool. And it's a British institution, you know. It's a worldwide institution as well. So to be able to be a very, 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 very tiny cog in a very, very big watch was a very cool thing for me. Yeah. Wow. Thank you.
I think we got Eddie next.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
First, where the hell is Chrissy?
She's in the next hall signing
I
autographs.
didn't see her.
Yeah.
And second, have you ever had nightmares after playing Vecna?
Well, yes and no. Not about playing Vecna. I'm sorry, I'm going to be really deep here. I'm not sorry, fuck it. So one of the things for Vecna and one of the things for the character for me was this idea of resentment. You know, I think it's something that I really related to, you know, how he grew up, the idea of the world is a lie, all this kind of stuff. And to dig that resentment up in me brought up things that perhaps I wasn't aware that I hadn't processed yet. So at the end of the day, if I go home, sometimes that stuff would still be in there, and I'd be thinking about things that I didn't necessarily want to think about. You know, But they were there, and you just have to kind of be like, okay, this is happening, that's fine, it's all good. But no, I've never had a nightmare about Vecna. I like Vecna, I love him. He's me, we're fine, we're chill.
Have you ever had that nightmare where your teeth fall out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's awful.
Have you ever had that nightmare where you pissed yourself and then you wake up and you pissed yourself?
Yeah. And sometimes I'm not even going to sleep.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
That was before I got sober.
Yeah, pass it down. I'll get some in the front
Just
in a
while it
second.
passes, I want to ask, because we've been asking other guests, it's a standard question, but have you been able to keep anything from any of the sets of any of the films that you, or TV shows you've done?
Yeah, I have one of the hands of Vecna. I have one of those.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I tend to keep my chair backs as well. You know, we get these fancy chairs with our name on them. Makes me feel really important. So I keep those sometimes. I've got a ring from a movie that I did called The Mortal Instruments.
Did you put it on the hand of Vecna? You should keep it on the hand.
No, because the hand itself is like it's got like a mechanical thing inside of it. So Barry Gower, who made it, really wanted to keep the mechanical bit. So it's just like this really limp bit of like foam, and it just sits in my drawer. It's killer though. I love it. I took it to the first convention I did, and I've never taken it to another because I was like, this is really cumbersome and actually kind of grim. Like,
Also,
nice.
Going through the airport without
anything.
Oh my god!
I want to see your spare room now, which is just a floppy hand and loads of your face.
Yeah. That's the whole house. That was,
We got
super ego.
Lots of hats.
Lots of hats.
If Vecna would come for you, which song would your friends use to save you from him?
Oh, my friends, I stupidly, and I have to say this answer every time because I'm such an idiot, I stupidly said Miley Cyrus's Party in the USA when I was first asked this question, so I've got to go with that. So yeah, there you go, Miley Cyrus, Party in the USA. God help us all.
I don't take this the wrong way, but when you answered that, you look dead inside.
I feel dead inside. The shame is so real. I like shrink so much.
If I was coming for you, Thomas the Tank theme,
Yeah.
no issues.
That would be fucking
We're
terrifying.
Don't worry, we will get to you. Yeah, I will get some down the front and I will come across. Yeah, here, I'm here.
Sorry.
Hi.
Do you have any updates on, I forgot the name, but the movie True Hunting, it got a new name.
The movie What Love?
True Hunting.
True Haunting. I have no updates on True Haunting. I can tell you about other things. I made an amazing film last year called Horizon, which is this incredible Kevin Costner Western, which is just awesome. I've seen about 10 minutes of it. We did like a sizzle reel, and it looks phenomenal. It's got the most incredible cast. And I just made a really interesting film called Witchboard with a director called Chuck Russell. And Chuck Russell directed The Mask and actually directed the third Nightmare on Elm Street as well. Really sick, and it's this, you know, we're independent, but we've made this really interesting genre-blended horror adventure thing. I don't really know what to say about it other than as I was making it, there were times where I was like, fuck, I would watch this film so much. So I'm really excited about those things. And then obviously, you know, Stranger Things, whenever that is happening. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to come back in a second.
Is this why your Twitter bio says Witch King?
No. The Witch King thing, I'm not really sure where that came from. That I felt, you know, as we were going into the pandemic, you know, if we all remember that PTSD moment, I was doing my solo music project and I was kind of just feeling my way through a darker space that perhaps I had neglected or rejected for some time. And I feel like, you know, often, perhaps not nowadays, but in lore, you know, the idea of witches is genderized per se. So I liked the idea of perhaps like taking the two things and putting them together, but ultimately it just means that I'm a witch, really.
Love it.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes. Hello.
Hello, and welcome to Belgium.
Thank you so much.
I was wondering, when playing Vecna,
and when we meet him as one, he has something almost innocent and gentle about him, and then obviously is like horrible. But I was wondering, as an artist, as an actor, did you play it as two different characters, or did you play it as the same character, or how did you make that distinction?
Thank you for that question. So the distinction was that when he's interacting with Eleven at the beginning, when we first meet him, he's obviously been put into this environment with Brenna, you know, with his power, and over time Brenna has put this thing in his neck that suppresses his power, and he's learned that he has to kind of play the game, as it were, in order to be able to survive. He recognizes in Eleven parts of himself, but also he does need Eleven to help him, you know, ultimately, which she does. And so with that, there had to come this kind of trust me, you know, not facade, but this relationship that needed to happen. But underneath that, there always had to be this burning fire. And I mentioned earlier the idea of resentment. You know, his resentment is obviously that his parents, well, he was isolated and ostracized as a young boy. His father comes back from the war, lies, you know, he presents himself as this very upstanding citizen and member of society, when in fact actually the truth is that his father has killed, you know, a civilian family. And Henry sees that and is like, no, that's wrong, this all feels really wrong to me. So you have that, you then have him being put into an asylum where he's manipulated and controlled. You then add into that, Eleven takes away every single ounce of possible hope that he has for a future of joy. Well, all that's left is resentment. So it was always about building those layers, but there was very much a considered effort on my behalf of being like, okay, I need you to trust me, so feel that from me, and then we'll be okay. But I never saw them as two separate characters. I always saw them as the same character, but he was just playing a bit of a game with her at first.
Right, so you two have had your question for age. I'm going to come this way and then back. Be careful because of the speakers, okay?
If it starts to hum, run away.
Hi. I have a question about the movie Sweeney Todd, actually. There's a song there that you sing, I Feel You, Joanna. Could you sing a part of that?
Oh no, not now. No, absolutely. Too many cigarettes right now. Do you know what's funny? Is, oh, come on, monkey, dance, monkey. It's funny, I was asked to sing that again during the pandemic. I did something for a charity and they asked me if I would sing it, and it had been years since I'd sung it. I mean, I was 31, I think, when they asked me to sing it again. And I was, 18, I think, when I first sang that song, and I thought, fucking hell, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And the crazy thing is that all that muscle memory was still in there. So if you want to go and have a look at that to prove that I can do it, you're more than welcome. It's on the internet. But I won't do it now.
You don't think you can do it?
I'm happy to take that shame. That's fine with me. Yeah, exactly. All right then. No.
Was that generally your second question? Incredible. We've got time for 2 more questions, I've been told. I can reach out to you.
All right, I have 2 questions. Sure.
That's it, no one else.
I really loved you in Sweeney Todd, and
Thank you.
I was wondering if you would ever consider doing more musical work.
Another musical?
Yeah.
I'd love to. I think if the right musical came along, I would like jump at the chance. I mean, like, you know, I'm a singer still, so I practice when I'm at home, and so I'll sing songs for musicals when I'm at home. But yeah, 100%. If it was right and it felt good, sign me up. If anybody wanted me, yeah.
I would love to see you in another musical.
Let's make a musical.
Yeah,
There you go.
And my second question is, would you rather fight 5 duck-sized Vecnas or 1 Vecna-sized duck?
5 duck-sized vectors or 1 vector-sized duck?
As me, both sound fucking terrifying.
Bear in mind, there's 2 cages behind you and one is going to
And you have, fuck knows, I'll take the Vecna-sized duck. I'd maybe make it my pet. I'd like feed it. There you go.
I'm not just going to say this, but that's the musical, I think.
I'm sold.
You have come for me, dog. I can't sing, but I was pretty impressed with
That was good.
I've just been told you have to get to a photo shoot.
Okay.
I'm very sorry, we're going to have to send you back out into the world.
That's cool, man.
But this has been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, you're welcome.
What a great last Q&A. Look at all these
Get a
people.
photo.
Absolutely.